everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So yesterday I participated in my first ever Digimon TCG webcam tournament. It was a 128 player tournament hosted by Pro Play Games. It was a really fun event. I had a great time with it. There was prizes for the top 16. I unfortunately did not place in the top 16, nor did I come anywhere close, but that is 100% okay. I did not go into this event with expectations and thinking that I was going to place in the top 16. Like I said, it was my first ever Digimon TCG event. It was the first time I had played a constructed deck and not the starter decks. So it was I mainly went into this with expectations of just trying to learn and have fun with the game. And I did. I had fun in the event. I did end up going 2-3-2, but like I said, that's okay. I was not expecting to do well or place near the top. I said at the beginning of the day, even if I owe 7, I'm just going to play all 7 rounds because I wanted to play. I wanted that experience of playing constructed decks against other constructed decks and just be able to have fun throughout the day. So the deck that I ran was a green Tantomon deck. We're going to go through the deck now. If you are familiar with Max Tepera's green Tantomon deck, this is exactly the same list that he used at a different event. So if you're familiar with that, you can just skip ahead to the match recaps. But yeah, let's get into the deck. Alright, so let's get into the list. So again, it's the exact same list as that Max used. The only difference is that I run 2 Fremons and 3 Tantomons. The reason for this is Tantomon number 4 is in the mail. So I had to stick a 5th egg in there, so I just went with the 2nd Fremon. Tantomon is obviously the better egg for this deck. It is so much easier to get Tantomon's inheritable effect active than Fremon's. Because Fremon requires your opponent to have 2 suspended Digimon, whereas Tantomon only requires you to have Digivolved something on your side of the field, outside of the breeding area, of course, so that is so much more consistent and so much easier to hit than having 2 of your opponent's Digimon suspended. Alright, so getting into the rookies, we have 4 copies of the green Akumon. I absolutely love this card. It's no cost to evolve, 3 to hard cast it if you absolutely have to, but the inheritable is so good. Being able to give whatever is stacked on top of this thing an extra 1000 power is very good. We'll get into some of the other Digimon later, but being able to boost one of your Digimon that is a 6k power into a 7k power just makes you feel so much safer about swinging that Digimon into security. 6k seems to be like almost like a magic number for a lot of Digimon, so being able to just be 1000 higher than that means that if you do hit another blocker or another one of the many Digimon that are 6k, you're going to survive, and Agumon really helps with that. Okay, so the next rookie that we have is 4 copies of Tantomon. Tantomon is, again, another free evolution. It's 3 costs to play it from your hand directly to the field if you need to, and the inheritable is pretty good. I used it a couple of times, not so much when I was playing some of the bigger decks, like playing against Omnimon, but if my opponent was just trying to go wide, then having Tantomon's inheritable to be able to suspend one of their 3k power or less Digimon was very helpful, especially if I had a Puppetmon in hand. I could swing with a couple things that had Tantomon underneath it, get a few things suspended, and then slam down a Puppetmon to make sure that they would stay suspended for the following turn. Alright, so that's Tantomon. The next rookie we have is 4 copies of Goblin. Goblin is just very cheap. There's no inheritable off of him. He's a 3k, which is kind of nice. Sometimes I would swing Goblin into security fully expecting it to die, and I would flip like a 1 or 2k, and that was just kind of a nice little bonus that he didn't die. There's no inheritable, but he doesn't need it. It's no cost to evolve again, but it's only 2 to hard cast it from your hand to the field, which is very nice. If your opponent puts you to 1 and they don't have a tamer out that's going to put them to 3, sometimes I would just hard play a Goblimon from my hand to be able to keep them on 1 memory. It just feels so good to be able to get an extra body out and just put them again back to 1. Goblimon was just very good for that. And then the final rookie we have is 2 copies of Palmon. Palmon is really good to be able to go and fetch your level 4s. It's a 3 cost, so if they've got a tamer out, it's really, really nice to, even if like they just put you to 1, or you go down to 0, and then you can just go like hard cast a Palmon, or if you've got Mimi on the field, Mimi puts you to 3. If you really need to dig for a level 4, then you can just hard cast a Palmon to put you to 0, and then you can maybe find like a Vegemon or something else that only costs 1 to Digivolve, and then you can just Digivolve that on top of this to put your opponent back to 1. Just Palmon was very, very good. There were a couple times where I had to evolve Palmon over top of an egg just because I didn't have another rookie in hand, or I needed to draw, like I just had to. So it's good in that sense that it's a free evolve, but more often than not, I was always trying to hard cast Palmon from my hand to the field if I really needed to dig for those level 4s. Alright, so that's going to do it for the rookies. So let's move on to our champions. So starting off our level 4s, we have 4 copies of Kabutarimon. Kabutarimon, very, very good. Having the inheritable, giving it whatever's on top of it, an additional 1000 power if for every suspended Digimon your opponent has. So if you have like a Tantomon underneath this, and they've got like a rookie out, you can suspend their rookie, and then whatever's on top of this is going to be a little bit stronger. Also, the fact that this is 1 cost to evolve for a level 4 is very, very good. Because it's 5k power, you don't necessarily feel super comfortable swinging this into security, because like I said, 6k seems to be like a magic number for a lot of Digimon, especially the blockers. So swinging this into security as a 5k sometimes doesn't feel super good, but if you're able to buff this up with like an Agumon underneath it, you know, then at least it's 6k, but even then, you know, you still feel a little bit safer swinging in if it's a 7000, at least I feel that way anyways. But yeah, cheap to evolve and a great inheritable. Alright, so our next champion is going to be 4 copies of Woodmon. Woodmon is just basically your standard blocker. Again, it's a 6000, so just having a blocker is very, very good to be able to just like buy more time if they're going after your security, or, you know, if they've got rookies on the field, then rookies are not going to be able to get through this. So it's just a standard blocker, nothing much else to say about it. Our next champion is one of my favorites, actually. Is 4 copies of Vegemon. Although Vegemon has no inheritable and no effect in and of itself, I really, really like this card. It's one of my favorite champions to pull personally. It's a 1 cost to evolve, which is really nice. It's 6000 power, so if you put this over top of an Agumon, then it's a 7000, and then again, I feel so much safer swinging a 7k into security than a 6k. And if you really, really have to, it's only 4 to play it from your hand to the field, whereas like Kabutarimon is 6 and Woodmon is 5, so it just feels so much better if you have to play this from your hand to the field. There was a couple times where I opened with no rookies in my hand and I had Vegemon, so I would just have to, you know, like just throw down Vegemon, move my opponent to 3, and it just felt better than moving them to like 4 or 5 off of one of the other champions. But yeah, I absolutely really, really enjoy Vegemon in this deck. Alright, so that is it for our champions. So let's move on to our ultimates at level 4. So the first one we're going to talk about is Lilymon. Lilymon is super, super strong, having an inheritable where when you're attacking, you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon as long as it doesn't have blocker. If Lilymon allowed you to suspend blockers, it would just be so incredibly broken. So that's how it is balanced. But even still, it's very, very strong. Especially, like I said, if you're going to be able to follow it up with a Puppetmon to suspend something else and then keep a couple things locked down. It's really, really nice. Lilymon is just super, super good. Again, only 2 to Digivolve. So Digivolving in this deck is very, very cheap. If they put you to 1, you can just pay 2 to evolve this, and then they go to 1 again. Really, really helps keep your opponent starved on their memory, which just limits what your opponent can do. Lilymon's super, super strong in this deck. Alright, the next ultimate that we have is, we have 4 copies of Akumon. Akumon is just very, very good. Again, 2 costs to evolve and 6000, so if you've got an Agumon underneath this, or a Tantomon, and you threw this down this turn, it's going to be 7000. So again, you feel better, or at least I do, about swinging into security so that you're just above that 6k power level. But also, if you've got a Akumon underneath, like a Tantomon, or even a Puppetmon if you have to, and you go after some of the things on their board, you're going to get extra memory for clearing things on their board, which just feels really, really good to be able to do. So yeah, I love Akumon. And then our final ultimate in this deck is 2 copies of Cherrymon. Again, Cherrymon is just another blocker. It does not have the drawback of costing you 2 memory to attack like Woodmon does, and it's naturally at 7,000 on its own, so it's 1,000 power higher than the rest of the blockers, which again just feels good. If you have to throw Cherrymon into their security stack, it's already at that 7,000 mark, so I just felt so much safer about throwing Cherrymon into security, even if it had nothing underneath it to buff it. And again, it's only 2 to Digivolve, so very, very cheap to get a 7k blocker out on the field. Alright, and that is going to wrap up our ultimates, so let's move into our megas. So, the name of this deck, Green Tantomon. Tantomon, so unbelievably strong. It has no inheritable, it has no other effect, but it honestly doesn't need it. Being a 12,000 power Digimon for 2 to evolve is so good. Again, if your opponent just wants to keep trying to starve you on the memory and put you to 1, you can still get a Tantomon out if you Digivolve it, and then your opponent is still only at 1, and now you've got a big 12k threat on the field. Especially if you can build this on top of something like an Agumon again to make it 13,000, or the turn that this came out onto the field, if it's on top of a Tantomon, sorry, then it's going to be 13,000 for that turn, and then swinging it into security, you again just feel a little bit safer. It's already 12,000, so not much in security is going to kill it, but there was a couple times where in some of the games I threw Tantomon at security and I flipped a 12k plus Yomon, and it just felt kind of bad to lose my Tantomon to that. So having an Agumon underneath it or something else to make this 13,000 just gives you that tiny bit of extra, you know, safety feeling about throwing it into security. But honestly, once Tantomon hits the field and you just start going after security, it can be a very, very scary time for your opponent. There was a game where I had 2 Tantomons out, but I wasn't... I feel like I was a little bit more scared of what my opponent had in their deck rather than just going after their security. So I tried to play, or I didn't play as aggressively on their security as I should have, and that did end up costing me a game. But again, just things that you learn about the deck when you actually play it in practice. But yeah, Tantomon, unbelievably strong. And then the final mega that we have in our deck is 2 copies of Puppetmon. There's not really much to say about Puppetmon. It's just so unbelievably strong. Even though it costs 11 memory, if you are able to do things on your opponent's side, like to your opponent's board, like Flower Cannon one of their Digimon, or if you swing in with something that's got a Lilymon or a Tantomon underneath it and use those inheritables to suspend stuff, then slamming a Puppetmon down afterwards to just keep everything locked down and suspend an additional Digimon for Puppetmon's on-play effect is just so unbelievably strong. And if they don't have anything in their raising area that they can bring up next turn, yeah, you're giving them a whole bunch of memory, but they can't really do much with it. And then if you're able to follow that up on the next turn with enough Digimon to go after their remaining security and then the direct hit, then, you know, it's just very, very difficult for your opponent to recover from a Puppetmon if it's played at the right time. Just so unbelievably strong. There was a couple times because I was, like I said, this was the first event that I was playing this deck in. I think I was a little too excited to throw out Puppetmon, and I threw down Puppetmon at not necessarily the right times, because then my opponent was able to capitalize and then like come back from the Puppetmon. So again, just learning when to put Puppetmon down so that you can follow it up with a turn where you swing for game is just, you know, something that I've been learning about how to play this deck. But yeah, I absolutely really, really love Puppetmon. Just so unbelievably strong. And that's it for the Digimon. So now we're going to move into the Tamers and the options. The Tamers we've got are 2 copies of Mimi. Mimi is just so unbelievably strong. Being able to accelerate eggs and bring stuff out of the raising area is just really, really, really good. There was one game where I had one Mimi on the field because she was in security, and then I had a Puppetmon out, and what I was able to do was I had 3 Digimon on the field and my opponent had 3 security left. and because everything was still suspended from the previous Puppetmon, I was able to send those 3 after their security, and then I was able to use 1 Mimi to hatch an egg, and I had the rookie in hand. I Digivolved the egg into the rookie, used the second Mimi to bring it up, and then was able to swing for game. So it was just really, really nice. Gaining that extra memory off of Puppetmon attacking allowed me to like go down to 0 and play the second Mimi. So yeah, it just felt really, really good. Mimi is just so unbelievably strong. It is why you want to be running 5 eggs in this deck, because you are going to go through them. Even if you only have 1 copy of Mimi out, you are still going to accelerate through your eggs so unbelievably quickly that you need to have those 5 eggs. But yeah, I absolutely love Mimi. So strong in this deck. All right, the next card that is very, very strong in this deck is 4 copies of Flower Cannon. Flower Cannon is just a very, very good card. Being able to suspend whatever you want is very, very strong. If they've got a blocker out, you can just suspend that blocker and then just go right through to their security. And then if they hit this in your security, then their entire board, apart from their blockers, is suspended. And then especially if you've got a Puppetmon in hand, then Flower Cannon just suspended their entire board for you, and then you can just do a few things on your side, slam down that Puppetmon, and keep it all locked. It's just so unbelievably strong. Absolutely love this card. Would never consider running less than 4 in this deck. Probably in any green deck, in all honesty. And then the final card is 2 copies of Terror's Cluster. If they hit this in security, it feels really bad for them, but really good for you. There was one time, I think in one of the games, where a Plesiomon or an Omnimon swung at my security and flipped this, so it was like, goodbye. It's really, really nice because it also gets around the on-deletion abilities. So there was a game where I was playing against a yellow Kentorosmon control deck, and being able to Terror's Cluster a Kentorosmon to the bottom of their deck is so much better than having to destroy it, because then it's not deleted, it's just it's just sent to the bottom of their deck, so they don't get that minus 11k, which that minus 11k in this deck destroys everything except for Tantomon. So, being able to Terror's Cluster away a Kentorosmon and keep one of my Digimon just felt so good. And that's the list. Alright, so let's get into my matches. So I've got my Twitter thread open here on the side because I was keeping track on Twitter as the event was going. So in round 1, I played against a blue Omnimon deck. In the first game, I only saw 1 level 3 Digimon the entire game. So it was very, very difficult to get like clean evolutions. It was very, very clunky at the start because I had to pay so much to get stuff on the field. But I was able to get a few things built. I was able to get a Tantomon out, but then I threw it at security and there was an Omnimon in there. So that was just really, really crushing to see that I finally was able to get a Tantomon out and then it dies to an Omnimon in security. But it happens. It happens. And then in game 2, I was about to take the win. I had 3 things out and my opponent only had 2 security left, but the final security card that I hit, I think it's called Kaiser's Breath. I forget what it's called, but it's the blue option card that allows you to return one of your opponent's Digimon to their hand. So they were able to return my final attacker to my hand, and then because I had suspended everything, they were able to just go right through my board and get through my security. And I didn't have a Flower Cannon in security or a Terror's Cluster to send something away, so they were able to pick up the win. So that was round 1. And then in round 2, we played another blue Omnimon deck, and we lost to that one. We lost in game 2 as well, or round 2, I should say. Game 1, I ended up falling behind to a Metal Garurumon, and I just wasn't able to recover from that, so they took the win there. In game 2, my opening hand was Puppetmon, Kabutarimon, Terror's Cluster, and Flower Cannon. And then on turns 1 and 2, I drew an extra copy of Terror's Cluster and Flower Cannon. So I bricked hard. It was very, very bad. The game was over very quick. It happens. It happens. So that was round 2. So, moving on to round 3, I played against a red Gallantmon deck that had 2 copies of Omnimon in it as well, but it was 4 Gallantmons and only 2 Omnimons, so both games were quite long. In the end, my opponent just outpaced me and took the wins. This was the match where I had a couple Tantomons out and I wasn't being as aggressive against security as I should have. Even my opponent after the match said, "You should have won the first game." because you should have just been using your Tantomons to go after security, and I wasn't. So again, learning how to properly play the deck, and just the pace that I should be playing it at. So yeah, that was my round 3 loss, and then we moved on to round 4, where it ended in a tie. But after some clarification, I found out that like there was some miscommunication on my opponent's part. They were misinformed on how to handle the game if you both finish your final 2 turns in overtime, and because of the misinformation, we ended up scoring it as a 1-1 draw when I should have actually been scored as the winner, 1-0. But it's okay, it's not a huge deal. In the end, I didn't really care. That was where I played against the yellow Kintorosmon control, and yeah, it was at that point, that was my most enjoyable match of the day so far. I just really enjoyed playing against my opponent. It was, yeah, just a fun match overall. I won the first game, but because it was against Kintorosmon control, it was like a 35 or 40 minute game. So we didn't have very much time in our second game, which is why we went into overtime and extra turns. But yeah, that was round 4. And then round 5 was a actual draw. My opponent was playing a blue... It was either a blue Omnimon or a blue Metal Garurumon deck. I think it was blue Metal Garurumon, just simply because in the 3 games that we played, I never saw Omnimon at all. Neither Omnimon didn't hit the field, nor did I see an Omnimon in security. So either they just got very unlucky and they were playing blue Omnimon, or they were playing blue Metal Garurumon. That ended up in a draw. We went to the 3rd game, and I just wasn't able to get that final hit in time. So I would have been able to clear their final 2 securities on the final turn of extra turns, but I wasn't able to deliver the actual killing blow. So that ended in a 1-1 draw. So we moved on to round 6, which is where I picked up the first win of the day because I had a bye. So I was able to go and eat. So I kind of won on 2 ways there. I got the first actual win of the day, and I got to go get some food. So that felt really good for a couple reasons. But then on to round 7. I won in round 7. I was playing against a purple deck with Piedmons and Lilymons. It was a fun match. Round 7 was just very fun. I'm not saying that because it was the round, like one of the rounds that I won. It just was a very fun match. In the first game, that's where I was able to throw down the Puppetmon and suspend their whole board, and then use the second copy of Mimi to bring up an extra egg and go after security and then swing for game. And then in round 2, I drew the flower cannons and had them in hand exactly when I needed them. My opponent was able to bring out some blockers. He brought out a Vegemon, which I was able to flower cannon and get past. And then I hit another Vegemon in security, so that got sent to trash. And then when I followed it up with a Puppetmon and gave my opponent a whole bunch of memory, the following turn they followed it up with a Piedmon, and they were able to bring back that other Vegemon to have an additional blocker out. But then I had another flower cannon in hand, so I could suspend that blocker as well and send everything through. And there was enough on my side of the board to be able to finish off their security and swing for game. So yeah, it was just overall, I had a lot of fun in this event. I met a lot of awesome people. There are a few people who I played against that also have YouTube channels. So I'm going to be uploading the matches following this video. I just have to do like a little bit of editing on each of the videos. A couple videos where I just have to bleep some stuff out. But yeah, just overall, it was a really fun event. So be sure to check out, again, I'm going to have a link to Max's channel, Max Tapera. Again, he is the one who came up with this deck list. I just ran it for this event. So I'm going to have a link to his channel in the description of this video. And when all the matches hit the YouTube channel later on into this week, anybody that does have channels of their own, I'm going to link in the description of those matches. So make sure that you check out the other creators for this game. This game is still in early pre-release. It hasn't officially released in North America yet. I believe the official date for this in North America is like January 27th. So it's later this month. But the fact that this game has so much interest and so many people playing it and creating videos and content for it already is just really, really good. It's very healthy for the game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this game goes and how things take off when we get the official release, and also in February when we get the 1.5 boxes that will finish off BT 1, 2, and 3, which are the first 3 sets. I'm really, really excited to see how that's going to shake the meta up. I also cannot wait for Chaosmon. Green is just going to take off once we get some later sets, so I'm really, really excited for that. So thank you everybody so much for watching this video. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit lengthy, but yeah, I just wanted to go over the deck and kind of recap my matches for the day. So yeah, thanks again everybody so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to consider subscribing. I typically do a lot of Pokemon content and upload highlights from my Twitch channel, but like I said, I am going to be doing more Digimon content, especially as this game is getting into full release in North America. So if you liked the video today, feel free to consider subscribing. And yeah, thanks again everybody, and I'll see y'all in the next video.